When you walk away in silence, you leave behind a mystery they'll never solve, and a version of yourself they'll never get back. What if I told you that your silence, your calm, wordless exit, is the very thing that will make them crumble? Not your explanations, not your apologies, not your long messages begging to be seen, heard, or understood. Number. It's your stillness. That's what shakes the ground beneath their feet. The truth is, the most powerful move you can make isn't loud. It's not dramatic. It doesn't come with fireworks or breakdowns. It comes when you get up, dust yourself off, and walk away. Quietly. With no warning, no explanation, no need to look back. That's when they feel it. That's when the shift happens. Before we dive deep into this lesson on power, discipline, and self-worth, do yourself a favor. Press that like button, hit subscribe, and turn on the notifications. Because this message, it might just change the entire way you see yourself and the world around you. Hey folks, my friends, I want you to imagine this. Picture a lion, calm, unmoved, eyes focused. It doesn't roar before it strikes. It doesn't explain itself to its prey. It doesn't need to prove anything. It simply acts, with purpose, with silence, with power. Now picture a person who begged, pleaded, sent paragraphs trying to fix what was already broken. They poured their heart out and got ignored, ghosted, dismissed. And then, one day they stopped. No goodbye, no warning, just silence, like a lion walking off into the jungle, unbothered, untouchable. That's the kind of silence we're talking about here, a silence that isn't weak, a silence that screams, a silence that doesn't chase but commands. And I'll tell you the truth, they never saw it coming. You see, we've been lied to, my friends, lied to by movies, by social media, even by our own fears. We were told that if we didn't fight to be understood, if we didn't beg for clarity, if we didn't pour out every emotion, we'd be seen as cold, as heartless, as the one who gave up too easily. But here's the real story. Walking away doesn't mean you lost. It means you chose yourself. It means you refused to stay where your value wasn't seen. It means you finally stopped proving and started preserving. And that's the kind of move that turns pain into power. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." He wasn't joking, because the moment you walk away silently, you're no longer reacting. You're leading. You're not chasing. You're evolving. And let me tell you, nothing gets under their skin more than your absence when they expected chaos. They expected tears. They expected that late-night text. They expected a weak version of you clinging to the ruins of the past. But instead, they're met with nothing. Just quiet. Just space. Just the cold, unshakable realization that the version of you who once tolerated their games is gone. Let me ask you something. Who do you want to be? The person constantly explaining, chasing, justifying, or the person who walks away like a storm passed through, without a sound, but with permanent impact? Because that's what walking away silently really is. It's not the end. It's the beginning of your transformation, a reset, a resurrection. So here's what I want from you. If you feel this message hitting home, if you've been in that place where you gave too much, tried too hard, and still got left behind, then drop this in the comments right now. I walk away with power. Say it for them. Say it for yourself. Say it for the version of you who's done explaining, done chasing, and done lowering your worth just to be noticed. And don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and stay with me, because we're just getting started. There's a whole world of strength that unfolds the moment you choose silence over drama, calm over chaos, and dignity over desperation. Let's tap into that together. Stay sharp, stay steady, and remember, you are the storm. Number 1. The exit is the entrance to power. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. Here's the part they don't tell you. Leaving is easy, but leaving silently. That's where real power lives. That's where the transformation begins. Anyone can storm out, scream, curse, send one last emotional message to feel like they've said what needed to be said. But those are fireworks, loud, flashy, and gone in seconds. What truly lasts is the absence, the echo, the silence that lingers long after you've walked away. Think about it. Why does silence feel so heavy? Why does walking away without closure terrify them more than any angry outburst ever could? Because silence doesn't just remove your presence, it forces them to face themselves. And most people, they're not ready for that. You were the mirror they used to distract themselves. You were the one they could push, pull, and test. But once you leave without a sound, they're left in a room full of their own noise. And that's where the truth starts screaming at them. Imagine you're in a theater. The show has ended, the lights go out, the audience is gone. But the silence, it echoes. It's in that moment you realize the applause doesn't matter. The spotlight was never the goal. The real performance? It was your discipline, your restraint, your exit. And still, your mind might ask, but what if they forget me? What if my silence means they'll move on? What if I lose them forever? Let me flip that around for you, my friend. What if the only reason they stayed was because you kept chasing? What if your silence is the only thing that finally shows them what they lost? What if your absence becomes the weight they weren't ready to carry? Here's a harsh truth. Most people don't value presence until it's gone. And the louder you try to remind them, the more they tune you out. But the moment you walk away without making a sound, that's when they lean in. That's when the questions begin to eat at them. Marcus Aurelius said, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." So if begging isn't right, and explanations won't bring the truth back into alignment, then why speak at all? Why not let your silence be your truth? Why not let your exit be the full sentence? I get it. Walking away feels like giving up. That's the lie we've been fed, that if we just tried harder, explained better, waited longer, they would understand. But here's the truth. The more you try to explain your worth, the more they believe you doubt it. You don't rise by convincing, you rise by removing your attention, removing your energy, removing your need to be chosen. It's not easy. That fear will claw at your mind. The fear that walking away means you'll be forgotten, that it means you were never important, that it means you've lost. But those thoughts, they're the final chains breaking. They're not truth. They're the ghosts of your old identity, trying to drag you back into a cycle where your value depended on their attention. You've outgrown that version of you, the one who needed to be seen, the one who needed to explain. You are no longer the man standing at the door, hoping they open it again. You're the man who turned around and built his own. This is your moment now, not to chase, not to argue, but to exit with dignity. The real power was never in being chosen. It was in realizing you could choose yourself. So here's what I want from you. Right now, in the comments, write it out. I walk away with power. Say it loud, say it proud. Let the world see it. Let yourself see it. No more crumbs, no more waiting, no more weakening your soul for temporary comfort. You don't owe them a show. You owe yourself peace. And stay with me, because we're just scratching the surface. What comes next? Oh, it's the part that really shakes them. It's the moment when your silence starts speaking louder than their excuses ever could. Let's keep walking this path together. The noise ends here. The power begins now. Number 2. Why silence feels like a threat to the insecure. Your silence will disturb the ones who were only ever comfortable with your weakness. Let me tell you something they'll never admit out loud. Your silence, it threatens them, not because you're doing something wrong, but because they no longer have access to your emotions. They can't read your mind. They can't predict your next move. And for the insecure, uncertainty feels like danger. See, the ones who rely on control, on validation, on always having the upper hand, they don't fear confrontation. They fear your indifference. They fear your quiet. Because when you're silent, they're forced to sit with their own noise. And trust me, most people spend their entire lives avoiding that silence. Think about it like this, my friends. Imagine a magician. All their tricks depend on attention, on distraction, on you looking where they want you to look. But the moment the audience goes quiet, the moment no one reacts, the magic loses its power. Now the magician starts sweating. Same thing here. The moment you go quiet, their illusion starts to break. The mask slips, the game ends, and now they're left facing their own reflection without you there to carry the emotional load. And yet, you might be asking yourself, but isn't silence mean? Doesn't it make me look cold? Won't they think I don't care? That's the lie they want you to believe. That silence equals cruelty. That silence equals guilt. But here's the truth. They only call it cold when they can no longer manipulate it. They only call it selfish when you stop pouring from your cup to fill theirs. Seneca said, "Sometimes even to live is an act of courage." And in this world full of noise, where everyone wants the last word, where drama is currency, silence is courage, especially when it comes from a place of clarity, especially when it's the result of emotional discipline, not emotional shutdown. You've got to understand this. Your silence doesn't mean you don't feel. It means you don't react. It means you've finally built a filter between your emotion and your action. That, right there, is Stoic strength. That is power most people never taste. And let's be honest here, silence terrifies them because it creates space. And space creates questions. Why aren't they chasing me? Why did they stop explaining? Why does it feel like I've lost control? It's in that vacuum that their own guilt starts to bubble up, their own doubt, their own regret. And that's not your burden to carry. That's their work to do. You, on the other hand, you're not being quiet to play games. You're not being quiet to win them back. You're being quiet to win yourself back, to reclaim your energy, to reset your mind, to recover the parts of you that got lost in all the over-explaining, over-giving, over-trying. And yes, it'll be hard at first, because part of you still wants to be understood. Part of you still wants to be seen. That's human. But silence teaches you this. Not being understood by them doesn't mean you're misunderstood. It just means they weren't listening in the first place. So here's what I want you to remember. When they act confused by your silence, when they call it immature or accuse you of being heartless, don't fall for it. That's not truth. That's their discomfort, trying to pull you back into the cycle, back into emotional slavery. But not this time. This time, you're choosing peace over performance. This time, you're not playing their game. This time, you're walking away without music, without applause, without needing the audience to cheer. So do this for yourself. Right now, drop a comment and declare it. My silence is power. Say it for every moment you were talked over, every message you regretted sending, every time you explained yourself to someone who didn't deserve your voice. Say it loud in the comments. Show them. Show yourself. Show the world. And stick with me, because next, we're going even deeper, into the part where walking away without words makes them question everything. Because when you stop giving answers, they start looking for them. That's when the shift becomes impossible to ignore. Stay with me. We're just warming up. Number 3, walking away. Refusing to be defined by rejection. Rejection isn't what breaks you. It's what reveals who you thought you had to be loved. Let's get something straight, my friends. Walking away isn't weakness. It's one of the most underrated acts of rebellion in a world that expects you to beg for validation. They'll tell you that if someone leaves you, it must mean you weren't enough, that something in you was lacking. But what if I told you that rejection doesn't define your worth? It defines their inability to see it. And when you walk away, especially in silence, you're doing more than just removing yourself from the situation. You are refusing to let their opinion shape your identity. You're standing up, not just to them, but to the narrative that told you love had to be earned through suffering. Imagine a sculptor chiseling away at a block of marble. Everyone watching thinks he's making a statue of someone else, someone expected, someone ordinary. But with each cut, each crack, each discarded chunk, something different emerges, something powerful, something no one saw coming. That's you when you walk away. They thought they were breaking you, but all they did was reveal the version of you they couldn't handle. You see, rejection feels so personal because we attach it to our identity. Why wasn't I enough? What did I do wrong? How could they walk away so easily? But here's what they never told you. It wasn't about you. It was about their limits, their wounds, their expectations. You're not broken because someone couldn't choose you. You're just no longer willing to shrink yourself to be chosen. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." And there is no greater reaction than choosing to walk away with dignity. No pleading, no chasing, just silence, just self-respect. Just a quiet decision that says, you don't get to tell me who I am anymore. And let's be honest, walking away hurts, because part of you still believes you could have fixed it. That if you'd just said the right thing, done more, waited longer, maybe they would have stayed. But let me hit you with the truth. Anyone who leaves you for being real was never staying for the right reasons. And the one who truly sees you, they don't need convincing. We've been conditioned to think that love is earned through endurance, that if you suffer enough, stay long enough, fight hard enough, you'll be rewarded. But that's not love. That's codependence dressed in loyalty. That's chasing a mirage that keeps moving every time you get close. When you walk away, you're not giving up on love. You're giving up on the illusion that love requires losing yourself. That's where the power is. Not in the leaving itself, but in the decision to leave without needing to prove anything on your way out. Think about it. When they rejected you, they thought they were in control. They thought you'd spiral, lose sleep, send another message. But instead, you went silent. You went inward. You stopped explaining. You stopped needing their presence to feel like you mattered. And that shift, that quiet evolution, it's the most powerful thing you've ever done. Because here's what happens next. They start to wonder. Why didn't they fight? Why didn't they come back? Why are they so calm? And the truth starts whispering to them, maybe I didn't break them. Maybe they realized I was never worth their peace. Now I want you to ask yourself something, and don't look away. Do you want to be remembered as the one who begged to stay, or the one who walked away without a word and became unforgettable? Because I promise you this, they might forget the words you said, but they will never forget how you left. That silence, that calm exit, it becomes a mirror they'll be forced to look into every time they try to tell themselves they were right to let you go. So say it now, my friends. Drop it in the comments. I define my worth. Say it so loud that your past can hear it. Say it so strong that your future starts showing up early. Say it for every time you thought rejection meant you were less. Because you weren't. You just outgrew the room. And stay with me, because what's coming next? That's the part where your silence starts to haunt them, where you say nothing, and they hear everything. Number 4. When you leave without words, they start hearing their own lies. The truth has a voice, but silence forces people to hear the one thing they've been running from, their own. My friends, let's cut through the noise. When you walk away without saying a word, without that final message, without the emotional explosion they were expecting, you hand them something far more powerful than an argument. You hand them a mirror, and in that mirror they don't see you anymore. They see themselves, raw, unfiltered, unmasked, and for many, that's terrifying. Because let's be honest, they expected you to break. They counted on it. They wanted that last text, that last attempt to explain, to beg, to bleed out everything you had left. Why? Because as long as you kept talking, they didn't have to. As long as you were the one making noise, they didn't have to hear the voice inside their own mind whispering, you messed up, you pushed too far, you lost something good. Imagine a room full of echo, every word you've ever said bouncing off the walls, every explanation, every attempt to fix what they kept breaking. Now imagine you leave, the door closes, and the only sound left is their own thoughts, their own guilt, their own reflections staring back at them without distraction. That's the power of silence. Most people aren't afraid of being alone. They're afraid of the truth that catches up to them in the quiet. And the moment you stop filling the silence, the lies they've been telling themselves begin to collapse. I didn't do anything wrong. They were too much. I can replace them. That internal playlist starts skipping, starts glitching, because now there's no one left to blame, no one left to gaslight, no one left to carry the emotional weight for them. And still, maybe part of you wants to speak. Maybe you feel like they still don't get it, that they'll walk away thinking you were in the wrong, that they'll sleep easy, guilt-free. But hear this truth. Anyone who truly lives in peace after mistreating someone was never worth your words to begin with. You don't owe explanations to people who listened only to respond. You don't owe closure to the ones who created confusion on purpose. Marcus Aurelius said, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." And your enemy in this case, it's not them, it's your old self. The version of you that over-explained, overshared, overgave, hoping that someday it would finally be enough. But not this time. This time, you walk away differently. This time, you don't feed the illusion. You let it starve. And here's the twist. They'll notice. Oh, they'll notice. Not immediately, maybe, but silence is patient. It doesn't hit like a punch. It hits like a slow bleed. The kind that doesn't stop. The kind that shows up when they least expect it. At night. In quiet moments. When the phone doesn't buzz. When no one's chasing them anymore. That's when they'll start to feel what you were feeling all along. And here's what's wild. Your silence will say things louder than words ever could. It will say, I don't need to prove myself to you anymore. It will say, your chaos no longer lives rent-free in my peace. It will say, you're not worth my reaction. Let them talk to their friends. Let them make up stories. Let them pretend they were the victim. Because deep down, where the truth lives, they'll know. And you'll be too busy rising to even care. So speak now, but not to them. Speak to yourself. Speak to the man you're becoming. Comment below and claim it. My silence speaks truth. Say it not as revenge, but as a declaration. That you no longer hand your power over for free. That you're done explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. You've done enough. Now let the silence do the rest. And stay with me, because what's coming next? That's the part where silence doesn't just reflect truth. It starts rebuilding you, piece by piece, brick by brick. And that, my friends, is where your comeback begins. Narpadavathu. You said, follow the same tone and same style we have set and rewrite this next section in 700 words. ChatGPT said, detachment hurts more than drama. They don't fear your anger, they fear your indifference, because when you stop caring, you become untouchable. Let's make one thing clear, my friends. Most people can handle your rage. They can deal with your tears, your emotional outbursts, even your pain-soaked paragraphs sent at midnight. Why? Because that still means they matter. It still means they have power. Your drama keeps them in the center of the stage, but your detachment, your calm, that's what shakes their core. Because now they're no longer the main character in your story. Detachment is the most misunderstood kind of strength. People think it means you're cold, heartless, maybe even broken. But that's just what they say when they can no longer manipulate your emotions. Real detachment isn't about shutting off your feelings. It's about owning them so completely that no one else gets to play with them. Picture this: a stormy sea, waves crashing, wind screaming. That's emotional chaos. That's what they expect from you after they've left, betrayed you, or played their little power games. But now imagine a still, deep lake. Unmoving, reflective, unbothered. That's detachment. That's what hits different. That's what they can't control. Because when you detach, you're no longer reacting. You're just done. And that scares the hell out of them. You ever notice how they test you after pulling away? They drop breadcrumbs. They post cryptic stories. They act like they've moved on, but then circle back just enough to see if you're still emotionally invested. But when you stop reacting altogether, when they realize their games no longer work, that's when they panic. Why? Because detachment says everything they didn't want to hear. It says, I don't need you to feel whole. It says, you're not my center anymore. It says, what we had taught me, but it doesn't own me. Seneca wrote, we suffer more in imagination than in reality. And nowhere is that more true than in relationships. We imagine that letting go means we've lost something, that if we stop showing we care, we're heartless. But the truth is, caring too long for someone who doesn't reciprocate is what really breaks you. Detachment is what saves you. It's not easy, I know. You'll have moments where the silence feels like abandonment, where their absence aches, where your mind tells you maybe if you just reached out one more time, maybe they'd get it. But that's the addiction talking. That's the part of you still craving closure from someone who couldn't even give you clarity. You don't need more messages. You don't need their attention. You need your peace back. The moment you detach is the moment your healing begins. Not because you stopped caring, but because you started caring more about yourself than about their response. That shift, that's what they weren't prepared for. You see, people expect noise when they hurt you. They expect fireworks, fights, drama, because that keeps them feeling important. It keeps them in control. But when you respond with nothing, when you go quiet and focus on your life, they're left to deal with the silence. And silence, my friends, is where reality echoes loudest. They'll start to wonder, did I really matter that little? Are they really over it? Why aren't they reaching out? But by then, it won't matter to you anymore, because by the time they feel the consequences of your detachment, you'll be too far gone to care. You'll be building, healing, evolving. And let's be honest, what hurts more? A screaming match that ends in more confusion, or watching someone become completely unbothered by your absence? Exactly. So here's what I want you to do. Right now, drop this in the comments. I detach to protect. Say it with power. Say it like you're done handing out emotional access to people who never earned it. Say it for the moments you kept showing up for someone who kept walking away. That ends now. And stay with me, because what comes next? That's where we stop responding to pain and start rising from it. Where silence becomes your strategy and your comeback no longer depends on their approval. Let's keep going. The best part of your evolution is still ahead. Number 5. Detachment. Hurts more than drama. They don't fear your anger. They fear your indifference. Because when you stop caring, you become untouchable. Let's make one thing clear, my friends. Most people can handle your rage. They can deal with your tears, your emotional outbursts, even your pain-soaked paragraphs sent at midnight. Why? Because that still means they matter. It still means they have power. Your drama keeps them in the center of the stage, but your detachment, your calm, that's what shakes their core. Because now they're no longer the main character in your story. Detachment is the most misunderstood kind of strength. People think it means you're cold, heartless, maybe even broken. But that's just what they say when they can no longer manipulate your emotions. Real detachment isn't about shutting off your feelings. It's about owning them so completely that no one else gets to play with them. Picture this: a stormy sea, waves crashing, wind screaming. That's emotional chaos. That's what they expect from you after they've left, betrayed you, or played their little power games. But now imagine a still, deep lake, unmoving, reflective, unbothered. That's detachment. That's what hits different. That's what they can't control. Because when you detach, you're no longer reacting. You're just done. And that scares the hell out of them. You ever notice how they test you after pulling away? They drop breadcrumbs. They post cryptic stories. They act like they've moved on. but then circle back just enough to see if you're still emotionally invested. But when you stop reacting altogether, when they realize their games no longer work, that's when they panic. Why? Because detachment says everything they didn't want to hear. It says, I don't need you to feel whole. It says, you're not my center anymore. It says, what we had taught me, but it doesn't own me. Seneca wrote, we suffer more in imagination than in reality. And nowhere is that more true than in relationships. We imagine that letting go means we've lost something, that if we stop showing we care, we're heartless. But the truth is, caring too long for someone who doesn't reciprocate is what really breaks you. Detachment is what saves you. It's not easy, I know. You'll have moments where the silence feels like abandonment, where their absence aches, where your mind tells you maybe if you just reached out one more time, maybe they'd get it. But that's the addiction talking. That's the part of you still craving closure from someone who couldn't even give you clarity. You don't need more messages. You don't need their attention. You need your peace back. The moment you detach is the moment your healing begins. Not because you stopped caring, but because you started caring more about yourself than about their response. That shift? That's what they weren't prepared for. You see, people expect noise when they hurt you. They expect fireworks, fights, drama, because that keeps them feeling important. It keeps them in control. But when you respond with nothing, when you go quiet and focus on your life, they're left to deal with the silence. And silence, my friends, is where reality echoes loudest. They'll start to wonder, did I really matter that little? Are they really over it? Why aren't they reaching out? But by then, it won't matter to you anymore, because by the time they feel the consequences of your detachment, you'll be too far gone to care. You'll be building, healing, evolving. And let's be honest, what hurts more? A screaming match that ends in more confusion, or watching someone become completely unbothered by your absence? Exactly. So here's what I want you to do. Right now, drop this in the comments. I detach to protect. Say it with power. Say it like you're done handing out emotional access to people who never earned it. Say it for the moments you kept showing up for someone who kept walking away. That ends now. And stay with me, because what comes next? That's where we stop responding to pain and start rising from it. Where silence becomes your strategy and your comeback no longer depends on their approval. Let's keep going. The best part of your evolution is still ahead. Number 7. What they feel in your absence is not closure, it's consequence. Closure is a luxury they forfeited the moment they chose confusion over clarity, games over growth, and ego over effort. Let's clear something up right now, my friends. When you disappear from their life without an explanation, without a final message, without that emotional goodbye they were hoping for, they'll call it cruel, cold, immature. They'll say you ran away. But what they're really feeling isn't your absence. It's the consequence of their own choices finally catching up to them. Because here's the truth. People who thrive on power games, on half-truths, on emotional yo-yos, they don't ask for closure when they leave. They ask for control when you do. Closure isn't what they want. It's certainty. Certainty that you're still affected, that they still matter, that they can walk in and out of your life, and you'll always be there, waiting at the emotional door with your heart in your hand. But when you close that door yourself, quietly, calmly, on your terms, that's when the consequences begin. See, they thought you'd need the ending, the conversation, the why, the what happened. But instead, you left them to sit in their own silence. You removed the reaction they were counting on to validate their behavior. And now, all they have left is the echo of their own decisions. No explanations, no comfort, no exit speech, just stillness, and a gnawing sense of regret that creeps in when they realize they played the game too long, and now the opponent is gone. Picture it like this. Imagine someone throwing a rock into a still pond, expecting ripples, but nothing happens. No movement, no chaos, just still water. That's your absence. That's what they didn't see coming. You didn't scream. You didn't plead. You just stopped participating. And now their mind starts running wild. Was I wrong? Did I push too far? Did they ever really care? That's not closure. That's psychological consequence. That's the kind of silence that speaks louder than confrontation ever could. Marcus Aurelius said, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy," and walking away without drama. That's the highest form of not becoming like them. You don't mirror their games. You don't match their noise. You rise above it by exiting with grace. You don't give them a scene. You give them a void. But let's be honest, folks, it's not easy. There's still that part of you that wants to explain, to be understood, to make them see what they ruined, to make them regret walking away from something real. But hear this. Someone who made you feel small while you were offering your biggest self was never going to understand you. They would have twisted your words, dismissed your truth, and walked away feeling justified. You didn't walk away to punish them. You walked away to preserve yourself. That silence, it's not revenge, it's recovery. And now, every day they don't hear from you, that absence grows heavier. The space you left behind doesn't get filled because they thought you were temporary, replaceable, easily forgotten. But people don't forget peace. People don't forget real. People don't forget the ones who walked away without looking back. Let them deal with the discomfort. Let them feel the weight of your absence. That's not cruelty, it's consequence. It's the natural result of dishonoring something pure. You don't owe them another chance to manipulate the narrative. You owe yourself a fresh start. So here's what I want you to do right now. Type it in the comments below. My absence is their consequence. Say it with the strength of someone who's done begging for understanding. Say it with the calm of a warrior who knows peace is found in letting go. Say it because you finally see that their chaos was never your responsibility to fix. And stay with me, because what's coming next? That's the part where you stop defining your worth based on their reaction and start building the kind of life that makes them realize they never had access to the real you in the first place. The comeback is silent, but it's happening, one step at a time, one day at a time. Keep walking, keep rising. Number 8, you walked away from them, but you walked toward yourself. Sometimes walking away isn't about leaving them behind. It's about finally catching up to who you were always meant to become. Let's get this straight, my friends. When you chose to walk away, it wasn't about proving anything to them. It wasn't some dramatic power move. It wasn't an act of revenge. It was a moment of awakening, a line drawn in the sand, not between you and them, but between who you used to be and who you refuse to be ever again. They'll never understand what it cost you to walk away without closure, to stay silent when your heart was screaming for answers, to turn your back on something you once poured your soul into. They won't get it, because they weren't the ones who stayed up at night wondering why love felt like begging, why respect felt conditional, why your worth seemed negotiable. But you finally saw it. You saw how staying was slowly erasing you, how explaining yourself over and over was shrinking your spirit, how fighting to be seen was exhausting a version of you that deserved peace, not performance. So you walked. And the moment you did, even if it hurt, even if it shook your world, you weren't walking away from something. You were walking toward something, toward clarity, toward freedom, toward the version of yourself that doesn't settle for bare minimums or emotional breadcrumbs. Think of it like this. Imagine a bird who's lived its whole life in a cage. The door's always been cracked open, but fear kept it inside. Fear of the unknown, fear of falling, fear of not being able to fly. But one day, it steps through the door, not because it's confident, but because it's done being confined. That's you. You didn't leave because you had it all figured out. You left because you were finally ready to find out who you are without the weight of someone who couldn't carry you. And they won't admit it, but they'll feel it. That shift in your energy, that peace that doesn't involve them anymore, that glow that says, I don't need anyone to complete me. I just needed space to remember myself. Epictetus said, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. And what you had to do was walk. Not for applause, not for validation, but because your soul was starving for something real, something sacred, something true. And let me be real with you. It's not always going to feel heroic. There will be lonely nights. There will be days when the silence feels heavier than their presence ever did. But here's the difference. This silence is honest. It's healing. It's yours. You're no longer dancing for their approval. You're building for your future. And here's the beauty in all of it. The longer you stay gone, the more you realize you were never meant to stay small. The more you invest in your peace, the more you stop wondering if they miss you. Because the truth is, you're not trying to be missed. You're trying to become someone unforgettable, with or without them in the story. They might come back, they might not. But either way, you're not the same person they left. You're not the man waiting at the door with open arms and wounded hope. You're not that version anymore. You're becoming someone who doesn't chase love. They attract it through peace, purpose, and presence. So here's the truth, my friends. Walking away wasn't the end. It was the beginning of your rise. The silence, the distance, the detachment, it all led you back to power. If this message hit home, like the video, share it with someone who needs it and subscribe for more. Stay sharp.